Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Lake Show Digest. The Los Angeles Lakers just wrapped up a game against the Orlando Magic, where they got a much-needed win, 114-103. But it was essentially the Orlando Magic's second and third string unit. They were missing a ton of their key role players, missing Terrence Ross, Michael Carter-Williams, James Ennis, Otto Porter Jr., and Markelle Fultz has kind of been their main guy, but he's been out for some time. There were stretches where the Lakers were looking pretty nice, and one stretch where we blew a 16-point lead over the course of the second quarter that had me in a dark, dark place, to say the least. But tonight was the first night where AD didn't have a minutes limit, and despite this brutal second quarter, we were able to pull away in a fashion that was a lot easier than I expected, given how rough that second quarter was. So to talk about this game tonight, I got my friend Nate, who I've met through NBA Twitter. He's a writer over at Hoops Habit, and he's been holding down the Laker fandom over in the state of Missouri. How's it going, man?
What's going on, Mateo? It's good to be here, ready to talk some Lakers basketball.
I know, man. So let me ask, how'd you become a Laker fan growing up in Missouri and everything?
Yeah, interesting that you asked. So obviously no NBA team in Missouri. So growing up, when I wanted to watch the NBA, the primary time I did, at least when I was really young, was a lot of times the Sunday game of the week. And of course, that kind of coincided with the Kobe and Shaq era. So, it was just the perfect storm, so to speak. Those were the games always on Sunday, and obviously watching Kobe, watching Shaq, it was easy to fall in love, and after a little bit, I was hooked.
I know my earliest basketball memories are with Kobe and Shaq. I always like hearing about people who grew up outside of Southern California, how they got it to become Laker fans. I had my other friend Alex on, who grew up in Oklahoma, and he was a big Michael Jordan fan. And then when that ended, he just followed Phil, and then that's how he got into Lakers. So it's always interesting hearing about how people get into the team, man. We are the biggest brand in the game, and it's going to stay that way for a long time. But let me ask you, what do you think about this game against the Magic tonight? I want to get your thoughts first.
I know that when we were texting back and forth, it was almost like a mini roller coaster, so to speak, just in terms of, we were pleased with what we saw to start the game. In the second quarter, things went a little bit awry. So that's when, it was a little bit concerning to see some of the defensive lapses. But ultimately, I think I was pretty confident the Lakers were going to come back in the second half and really clamp down on defense. So I wasn't overly worried in the sense of, I really thought the whole time the Lakers were going to definitely win the game. But what really came to mind is, just shoring up a couple things that you want to tighten up as we get set for the playoff run here.
Most certainly. And the big thing and why I was kind of worried was that we got like 10 games left, man, or something like that. So we need to figure out how we're going to defend pick and rolls, because that's what did us in against the Mavericks. We have this great defensive sequence on Luka where we're just trapping him. Everyone's rotating really well. And then in the fourth quarter, they come with this Luka Dwight Powell pick and roll, and they just killed us. We didn't have an answer for it. And so what was getting me so worried was we were seeing a lot of that same shit tonight. It was just pick and rolls that were killing us, man. Andre Drummond, he was having a hard time defending it. It was, he was too far back when he should have been a little more up at certain times. And then there was other times where the opposite was true. So with 10 games left, I'm worried about how well Andre Drummond is going to come along in terms of understanding our defensive system, because I think his potential is crazy, man, but we just don't have a lot of time. And shit's about to get serious very soon. We'll have LeBron back. So with LeBron coming back, he's going to come in at that, point guard forward position. So minutes will be split up there a bit, but guys got to get used to playing with him again when they've gotten used to a certain rhythm already. So, that's just something I'm kind of keeping my eye on. But yeah, it was really that first quarter we were really like to see looking good.
Yeah, and the first quarter was definitely encouraging. After losing 3 straight, I was definitely looking for the Lakers to come out confident. Somebody else I was looking to come out confident. Since we're talking about, the big men here, actually Montrezl Harrell, after catching the DNP last game, he took it like a pro, as you would expect. But that being said, I felt like he was really going to come out on a mission tonight. The production was there. It's just that by the time he entered the game, it was more towards the second quarter. We kind of had some of those lapses. But back to Drummond, though, I'm excited, obviously, to see him, kind of get more comfortable within the system. But that being said, it's been up and down as far as the early returns, the lineups with him and AD on the court, while they've had flashes of being dominant on the boards, have also had really just not looked the smoothest so far.
It's
in
been. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, you're good. I was going to say I think it's some of the advanced numbers here. I think let's see, 76 possessions actually in total with both of them on the court, and the Lakers are minus 30 in that time. So I don't expect it to stay like that. Obviously, small sample size, you can throw a lot of that out, but just something to take note of as we look for AD squared to build more chemistry.
Because that can be devastating, man. And good on you for pulling up the advanced numbers. We usually look at like the box score stats and whatnot, but you said they're minus 30 as as plus minus so far. Them too.
Yeah. Now I believe that would be after this game as well. That's according to Cleaning the Glass, but something I definitely expect to bounce back, of course. But yeah, but definitely not what you want to see to start. But I think it's nowhere to go but up for those two.
And I think it's a lot of just getting used to each other's on-court playing style because, communication. And we saw AD have a little moment with THT where I think he blew a rotation, or it might have been when he stepped out of bounds on that three-pointer in the corner and he got like visibly pissed at him and then he kind of pulled him aside. That's something I noticed. So, off-court chemistry is one thing. You can always get along with the guy off the court, but, if you're on the court, that's going to be – it's kind of like a work situation. You have an objective and you got to get something done. So that just requires time and experience. And we were really good at it last year, man. We had the best chemistry in the league and kind of in that crazy bubble. But it still remains a question mark for me. How far along are we going to go in terms of chemistry? I'm glad you brought up Trez, by the way, because he had a huge game for us, dude. He was looking rough in that second quarter when he came in for his first shift. And, he was just letting guys get by him at the rim. He was just kind of being an overall negative. But then the third quarter, he carried us. He was our freaking offense. What'd you like from that stretch, man, where we saw Trez in the third?
Yeah, and you said it perfectly. Certainly there was a lot left to be desired on his first stint. But, really, he didn't let it deter him. He came out in the second half as a different story. As always, in a lot of successful Trez games, you look down and you wonder, how is this man not shooting 70%? It seems like he's always going 7 for 10 and taking efficient shots. So I'm happy to see that, especially like we said after the DNP last game. But his chemistry as well with Schroeder has grown. But that's kind of a perfect segue to what Schroeder said after the game, or it might even have been prior to the game, as far as the Lakers having great chemistry off the court, fantastic chemistry, but just kind of wanting to tighten some of those things up on the court. Not that they don't have chemistry on the court, but more so just getting at that rust factor that the Lakers are going to try to overcome. Is there, it's not easy integrating guys like AD and Drummond into the fold. It's really not. And I think that's something that gets lost in a lot of the dialogue on Twitter, and around the league, just chopping it up. It's a lot of people kind of leave that thing out. And for those of us that watch the Lakers every day, it makes it even that much more rewarding to see the growth from these guys as we get set for that stretch run.
I know every little thing does feel very rewarding, especially, when you're watching a team as closely as we've been watching the Lakers, man. But yeah, there have been flashes, like you said, where you just see AD jump a passing lane at the right time and, get a good steal. And then like a few possessions later, Drummond will have a bad possession. I even have one of my notes just like, first quarter going great, getting buckets, 80 shot looking good, and then I just have like, can you put a fucking hand up, Drummond? Jesus Christ. So that's kind of been the Andre Drummond experience at times.
I take notes the same way. Absolutely. Probably have that same thing.
I do, yeah. I do a stream of consciousness thing because it kind of helps me remind me like what the mood of the game was at the point. But dude, yeah, first quarter we were grooving, dude. I also noticed KCP was moving pretty well. He's been so banged up this year, little injury after little injury. But he came out and he was moving. He was getting to his spots and even hit that big shot in the fourth quarter for us. So AD was looking great in that first. And then after Orlando got that dunk on Drummond, they just had life. Remember that?
Yeah, that was the turning point for sure.
They just kind of came alive. I don't even know who dunked on him. Whoever did, probably doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things. Might have been Dwayne Bacon or something. But that gave him life. That had me feeling like, oh, they're going to get somewhere. So moving on to the second quarter, though, we get the lead up to 16, but then they get it under 10. We bring AD squared back in. I like calling him Dre Day. What do you think about that name, by the way?
I like that. I like that. I think there's a lot of good ones floating out there, whether it's Salt Dre. I think Mike Trudell said that. The Big Penguin, obviously, but I
I
don't
don't think
know.
anyone likes the Big Penguin.
I don't know. The Big Penguin's more of one to just, I don't know, just kind of throw it out there, LOL, type of deal. It's not like Drummond said. It's okay. It's great for the kids, but it's more funny than anything. We need something more fierce.
It's
That's kind
great
of
for
that's
the
kind of why I
kids.
like that every day, like you said.
I know. I kind of like Dre Day, Andre Drummond, Anthony Davis. Or I'm gonna go with Dre Day. I need to copyright this shit before someone steals it. I got to put my name out there. But Dre Day was looking a little suspect, man. But on top of that, I thought the reffing was a little shaky again. And I don't know, because I mostly watch the Lakers, admittedly, but it doesn't it just feel like the reffing's been kind of bad against us for the last, definitely that whole Mavs series. This game felt a little suspect too. What's been your opinion on the recent officiating?
Especially in the Mavericks game on Saturday. I
Oh my
thought that
God.
the refs probably wanted to be the stars of the show a little bit, and I'm normally not. I try to normally stray away from giving the refs too much blame, just because I don't want to become too sour about it. I guess I don't know, but
I
they
do too.
they really they've really been noticeable, and that's not a good thing in the last few games. So you want the refs to just kind of like play their role, and you don't. Anytime you're not really spending too much time talking about them, that's a good thing. And these last few games, I've found myself talking about them. So to really answer your question specifically, I have noticed kind of an increase in a decrease in consistency among the refs, especially when it comes to the Lakers' last few games.
I know. It just seems like we're getting hit and we're just not getting the right calls. And then on the other end, we'll get called for things that, can go either way, but they really got a tight whistle with us. And especially, in my opinion, when it comes to Alex Caruso, I feel like the refs just hate him, dude. They always whistle him for those like little fouls that could go either way. I don't know. Seems like they have it out for him, and I don't know why. He doesn't. He's not one to abuse the refs. He just like I think rightfully complains when the call is a little suspect. So that's just
He
my little
does. He really
yeah.
he, re- he really does, and it might just be me, but that seems to be a lot more this year. Maybe now that his reputation's grown, I feel like he has some refs that maybe subconsciously don't like him. Maybe it was last year too, but I just find it this year, especially to your point.
It's a weird dynamic because I mean we all know that Tim Duncan thought like Joey Crawford had it out for him. Dude, I just feel like some of these guys have it out for Caruso, man. They'll just call him for like the stupidest shit. Anyways, that's kind of my tangent. But going back to the game, third quarter, we roll with the zone, I noticed, which is kind of working because that was interesting. Frank just said, like, okay, if we're not gonna know how to defend the pick and roll in time to win this game, let's just go to a zone. So they just did that shit. Worked a little bit, and Trez just kept us alive in that third quarter, man. Fourth quarter rolls around. I was still pretty nervous. I don't know. I just had bad vibes after this Mavs series. Trez kept us going until he had to sit, and then AD comes back in. And let's talk about Dennis Schroeder, man. He just stepped up as the guy in this game, and he's like turning into Chris Paul light a little bit. Of course, he needs to do this more often to really earn that title. But in these last few games, I feel like he's really stepping up as the vocal leader and a guy that's going to give us a bucket when we need it. What have you thought of his recent play?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, that's the thing that's got me most excited about the Lakers right now. I've been really pleased overall with, despite a couple cold streaks within the season with Schroeder's play overall, but lately he just looks great out there, and it's pretty clear down the stretch that when the Lakers need a bucket or just need the right play made, that you can definitely trust Schroeder. He's shown an ability to get to the cup and also to pull up in mid range and hit from three. Really kind of just turned into a three-level scorer and a floor general. I like the Chris Paul light comparison. Obviously, it's not there yet, as you alluded to, but you can definitely see, not to overly credit Chris Paul and undercut Schroeder, but just to give appropriate credit, I think you can definitely see some of the Chris Paul rubbing off on Schroeder from their time together, and Schroeder, to give credit to him, of course, just overall, he's expanded his game really every year he's been in the league. And I mean, this current evolution of him, from a Lakers fan standpoint, it's tough to see that he hasn't accepted the extension yet, hopefully. But if I'm putting myself in Schroeder's shoes with what he's done recently and continues to do, I can certainly see why he's hesitant to sign just yet.
Mm-hmm. Interesting you put it that way. Yeah, I'm especially high on Schroeder after this recent stretch. In this bad stretch, those games against like the Heat what other defense was killing us? They were just trapping the hell out of Schroeder. I mean, he was just throwing the ball away for free. But this game, he only had 2 turnovers to go with. Let's see what his stat line was. He was plus 21 tonight, 21 points, 10 assists, and only 2 turnovers. So this is night and day. He led the team in plus minus with that plus 21. Yeah. Would you be okay committing to him long term? Because right now he looks like he's 27, and he seems like he's got a lot of room to grow. I'm pretty okay with giving him the money. What's your stance on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would do it in a heartbeat. Don't even have to think twice. I think that what he's shown has been more than deserving of the maximum that the Lakers can offer him. I'm not saying max contract per se, but the maximum that the Lakers can offer him, given all the other things going along with the cap, such as Bron and AD, and the limit on what they can offer him with the open cap. So I think that he really brings everything that the Lakers need to complement AD and LeBron. And I also really just don't think that, given the salary cap constraints, that they're going to be able to, unless it's a sign and trade and Pelinka were to be able to swing Kyle Lowry or something like that. Outside of that, I don't see how the Lakers can replace him with a better player or even somebody equal to him. So I think all signs for me point to yes, absolutely. Sign Dennis Schroeder, absolutely.
Because the defense has always been consistent, even when he's turning it over, when his shot's not falling, he's still defending his ass off. And that's been one of the most promising things about it, especially the fact that he's in a Frank Vogel system. I'm very high on him. I got some Dennis Schroeder stock, and I'm just letting it sit there. I'm letting it rise. And playoff time, I think he's going to come up big, man. We've seen some dog in him the last few games. Really love what we're seeing from Schroeder. Kyle Kuzma tonight, though. Do you know his stat line, if you could guess it? What do you think it was?
Oh, man. Didn't he? I want to say he had 14. Now, I'm not sure on the rebounds. Maybe between 5 and 7 or so.
I think he had like 4 rebounds, but you're right. He did have 14, and it was a quiet 14, wasn't it? I mean, like, he just hit a few threes and kind of went. You know, sometimes it seemed, I don't know. Me personally, when Kuz doesn't make wide open shots, I just tend to get hard on the guy. I mean, go hard on him, you know. But he was still 4-6 from 3. So he's still getting his shots up, and he's still making them go in. 5 and 9 overall, plus 17 on the night. Quiet game for him, but he stayed efficient, and he was the highest plus minus behind Schroeder. So that was kind of surprising when I saw that plus minus stat for him.
Yeah, really, really good to see. Good to see him do that on just 9 shots, like you said, and that 4 of 6 from 3 really stands out. So maybe only 14 points, but I really like that 14 points from Kuz tonight.
That was a good 14, man. Big shout out to Schroeder. Big shout out to Trez, dude. I think he had 18, something like that. Shot very efficiently. He was the engine in that third quarter, so that was huge for him. Frank seems to be doing this thing now where he says, okay, I'm just going to roll with Trez one night, and then I'm going to go with Mark the other night. You know, we didn't see any Trez against the Mavs Saturday game, and then we get all Trez this game. What do you think about his center strategy? Because that's been the big question in Laker Nation lately.
Yeah, it's definitely been the trending topic. And now on Saturday, when Montrez didn't play, that from just a zoomed in context on just that game only, I didn't like that. I really felt we could have used Montrez's energy, especially with a little, not like Porzingis is the biggest rim protector, even with that 7'3" height, but with him out of the lineup, I figured Montrez could maybe make even more of an impact than before. And I just thought we needed his energy. But that being said, I understand why Frank Vogel did it. He wants to make sure that he's keeping both Gasol and Harrell fresh, and seeing what they can both do as complementary roles to Andre Drummond. So I get it. And with Frank Vogel and with the Lakers in general, not only with what they say, but what we can all tell by watching them, they're considering the big picture more so than right then. So I know that it was about that in terms of, all right, we have X amount of time to get these players in each situation that I want to see. So I try to remind myself that on Saturday, but it was hard to, keep that in focus when you're seeing the Lakers in desperate need of an energy boost, especially in that fourth quarter, and Montrez not being out there. So that wasn't an easy pill to swallow. But when it comes to Frank Vogel and his decisions, I usually give him the benefit of the doubt after all. The man has been here 1 year and brought us a title. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But certainly going to be what I'm focused on the most, is not only the big man rotation, but also, like we said previously, Dennis Schroeder and everything he's done for the team so far.
That seems to be what I fall back on too as well. When the time comes and the matchup clearly shows that, oh, this calls for Mark or this calls for Trez, I have confidence in Frank to make that right choice in the playoffs. So I still fall back on that, but we've been in that mindset, and it's been hard to deal with because we haven't seen our full team in so long. We forget what they look like, honestly. But now we have Anthony Davis back, man. Focusing on his game tonight, what do you think of what he gave us tonight?
He definitely looked like he really kind of shed a lot of the rust tonight. Still, obviously, a ways to go, but he was 0 of 11 from 3, I believe, prior to the not that it was necessarily a dagger tonight, but that final 3 that he splashed from the corner, he was 0 for 11 prior to that in his collective time since coming back from injury. So good to see him shooting a little bit better. I thought I'm no shooting form expert, but I did think that just overall he looked a little more crisp, a little smoother out there with his jumper. Mm-hmm. And he just looked like he was kind of feeling himself a little bit more, feeling more comfortable, feeling acclimated. Looking at the box score, he actually had the 3rd highest minutes total, even ahead of Kuzma, finishing only behind our guards with Schroeder and KCP. So that was great to see. Obviously, with the minutes limit being taken off, it's fantastic. And after the game, I believe he said he's going to play back-to-backs moving forward. So, knock on wood, AD appears to be back fully healthy, and I'm looking forward to him getting a little bit better each and every day.
I know. I'm feeling good about it too. You see him thank the basketball gods when he made that 3? Because I was thinking to myself too. I was like, is that the first 3 he's made since he's came back? Yes, indeed it was. He was thankful that went in. He threw his arms up and he was like, thanks, Zeus. He was very happy about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Anthony Davis, I was just most happy that he was able to hit some clinching shots. Just going back to Dennis, what I love about him is when we've needed a bucket lately, usually it's going to be Dennis at the top, and then he'll just get a screen the right way, or he'll find the right angle, blow by someone, and get the layup. It's been that way in a lot of games, man. When we need a bucket, we've got Dennis's speed to go in there for a layup. It's been pretty promising so far, when we need that point. But we got that from Dennis, and we also got some jumpers from AD. That was the biggest thing for me. He looked okay. He was moving well. And you know what else I missed? Those long outlets to AD. We got one of those tonight. It might have been Marquis for someone that threw it to him, but he hung back at the basket and he just caught a long old outlet. I love those passes that LeBron always makes to him. So it's good to see him catch one of those. He gets some clinching shots. I'm feeling pretty good. I hope he can play as many minutes as possible because he needs those on-court repetitions with the team, man. Not a lot of time left, but yeah, I feel pretty good about AD. Looking ahead, though, we got the Wizards on Wednesday night. We're going to be on the road. They have been on an 8-game win streak, but they just lost to the Spurs in OT. But what do you think about that matchup?
I'm excited anytime that I can watch a Wizards game, which is probably laughable to many, but anytime that I can watch a Wizards game as of late, let me preface it with that, as of late, it's always good. They've been on, as you said, an impressive winning streak, and really they're the type of team that seems to always kind of play to their competition. And honestly, they've had a lot of tough challenges lately and overcame them. So they're an exciting team. Russell Westbrook has been putting up just some of the weirdest, and I mean that as a very high compliment, some of the weirdest stat lines ever. Some nights where he's not even at 10 points yet, and he's got 13 rebounds and 14 assists. So I'm very anxious to see, how the Lakers deal with him. I don't think we're going to get the full-on Vogel strategy from the playoffs last year. I think that was a completely different environment when he was on the Rockets, but there might be some trapping. It'll be interesting, of course, to see how we handle Beal. I think the Lakers have, obviously the athletes on the perimeter to compete with them and to guard them. But, just from a straight up, mano-a-mano overall perspective, obviously Westbrook and Beal is a problem as a mismatch. So, I think we're going to get another huge game from Schroeder. He's not the type to back down, especially when he's playing his former teammate in Russell Westbrook. I know that there's going to be a friendly rivalry going on there. I think it's probably end up being higher scoring. You saw, although it was overtime tonight, the Wizards got into the 140s with the Spurs, and that seems to be the brand of basketball that gravitates towards them. So I think it's going to be an exciting game. Obviously, we don't get to head out to DC too often and play the Wizards, so this is actually one I kind of had circled on my calendar, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it's friendly for your time too. It's some of those earlier games. You're down in Missouri. But dude, the Schroeder versus Westbrook, I'm really looking forward to that just because I love it when, we're going against another aggro dude like Westbrook. That really brings the dog out of Dennis, man. Have you been watching you said you like watching the Wizards. Have you been able to catch some of their games this year?
Yeah. I probably caught probably a lot, honestly. I would say I probably watched at least part of 30 to 35 or 40 of their games. Yeah, I mean, honestly, closer to all of them than anything. I really do enjoy watching them. I've also got a lot of love for Bradley Beal. He's a St. Louis guy, and so someone I've always had my eye on, being from Missouri.
Right, yeah.
Russell Westbrook, despite all the criticism he gets, I love the guy's just mentality in terms of leave it all on the court. All his teammates always speak very highly of him, whether it's as a current teammate or former. So two guys I always follow. Once they became teammates, that was instantly a team I was always going to watch and pay more attention to. So I do watch a lot of Wizards, as weird as that may be to some folks. And, I'm definitely going to watch every second of the game on Wednesday.
I'm looking forward to it, man. Yeah, the Wizards, at least lately with this 8-game win streak, I'm kind of glad that they found a win streak because things were looking pretty depressing for them in the beginning of the year. But this Wizards matchup, this ain't going to be the Orlando Magic, man. They got bona fide bucket getters. They have one in Bradley Beal. So that's going to be a big test for us. I expect AD to bring his A game, man. I'm really looking forward to that. You got any final thoughts? I think that about wraps it up for me.
One final thing I would say is it's going to be barbecue chicken for AD versus that Wizards front court on Wednesday as well. I'm glad you brought that up.
Thank you for bringing that up. I should have said.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. That and the Westbrook Schroeder narrative. Those are going to be, two things I'm keeping an eye on. Great storylines heading into that game.
This is honestly looking like a pretty explosive game, to be honest. If we're going to have Westbrook talking shit, we're going to have Schroeder, bringing that shit back. Then we're going to have AD, getting back into his rhythm. Maybe even see a little bit of Drummond, just bullying them, getting a lot of rebounds. All right, I'm looking forward to this game now, man. I'm excited. You talked me into it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is going to be good and not bad for, a midweek treat, just a random Wednesday game. We got actually national TV too, so I'm really looking forward to this.
Makers knew this too. They're like, this is going to be the one.
Yeah, absolutely. 6:30 or 7:30 Eastern, 4:30 Pacific. So early start, but it'll be a good one.
I'm looking forward to this one, man. Thanks for coming on, though. This is fun, dude.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate you having me. It's always good to talk some Lakers hoops.
Yeah. We'll see you next time. Take it easy.